Hello, my name is Miss Vivian Elizabeth, and welcome to our Smart Learning at Andalusia Academy, and we are with HorizonTV. So today we are going to learn punctuation marks, things that we need to use in English language as far as speaking and writing is concerned. So welcome so much, and I hope you're going to learn a lot today. Thank you. So like we said, we are learning punctuation, and there is just one question, a common one that you don't expect to be asked, but you need to understand what punctuation is. So with the definition of punctuation, we are talking about the use of various unique marks in sentences and in paragraphs to make our work clear to understand, to make our work have an effect on readers as we read, and also to create a meaning as far as the type of sentences we are using. So we're going to briefly write it down. So we are talking about use of unique marks in sentences to create clarity in meaning and effect in sentences. Well, so having known that, that is the definition of punctuation. Now, we have said that we use unique marks. There is a reason why we are calling them unique marks, because there are specific marks with we used in different sentences. Among them, so we are looking at types or rather you can call them examples of punctuation marks. So take a minute to ask yourself, when I use sentences as a teacher, when you use sentences as a student, what punctuation marks do you usually include in your sentences? You might be asking a question, you know which type of punctuation mark you use. You might be making a statement or declaring something. You could be showing or expressing your feelings, how you feel. You use different. You could be making a short pause or also trying to connect sentences. You will need to use different types of punctuation marks. So that is what we want to look at, types of punctuation marks. It's quite a large list, and I'm going to list all of them for you. So we have known the meaning, so just allow me to cancel that out. So we have types of punctuation marks, of course. So the first one, you said you want to make a statement, you want to declare a point. You're going to use what we call a full stop, that some people sometimes call a period. If you're making a pause, you're speaking or you're writing a longer sentence and you feel like there is a natural pause in your speech or in your sentence, you're going to use a punctuation mark that is called a comma. I'm not putting any symbols there for now because I want us to put the symbols together to see if you remember or you can recall what they look like and how you're supposed to design them or put them in your sentences. So we have a comma as the second one. The third one, you are asking a question. You're interrogating somebody. Let's say someone has been accused of committing a crime. They're being taken to the police station and they're being taken to an interrogation room where questions will be asked, and obviously this person, the accused person, must answer. So in the process of asking the questions, we will be interrogating you, and therefore we call the type of punctuation mark we will use in asking questions. You want to express your feelings. You're shocked, you're surprised, you're amazed, you're excited. You will, at the end of your sentence, you will use what we call an exclamation mark. An exclamation mark. in your sentence. Then number 5, when you're writing a sentence, you know a sentence is made up of different clauses. You want to include clauses that either are related or are different in one way, but they communicate a similar idea. You're going to use, to separate or to join them, you're going to use what you call a semicolon. Semicolon. When you're writing a compound noun, a compound word, and an example is one here. A compound word is a word that is made up of 2 or more words. So you're going to use a specific, or rather a unique type of punctuation mark called a hyphen. For example, we have in an actual word, we have semicolon is written with a semicolon, a hyphen, because we have semi, which is the first word, and colon, which is the second word. So number 6, we have a hyphen. Number 7, we have what we call a colon. You will see the difference as we'll be listing them down, the difference between a semicolon and a colon. Number 8, we have apostrophe. We will look at their uses soon enough. Apostrophe, we have a dash, we have parentheses, among others. Very well. So like I said, we were going to look at the symbols step by step. A full stop or a period. How does it look like? Think through. If you've used a full stop before, maybe you know the symbol, but you have not known it's called a full stop. It's the tiny dot we put at the end of our sentence. And in this case, a sentence that is making a statement. It could be negative or positive. It's okay. As long as it's a statement or a declarative sentence, you put this tiny dot at the end to indicate that it has come to an end. Then we are talking about comma, the one you use to show that there is a short or a brief pause in your sentence or in your speech. And this is how the symbol looks like that. We have a question mark. When you're asking a question, at the end of that sentence, you're going to put a symbol that looks like this, like that. Then an exclamation mark, I'll write it down here under the mark, the one that expresses emotions and feelings. It is, you can call it a 1 or just a straight line with a full stop below it. That is how an exclamation mark looks like. Then a semicolon. It is a colon but halfway, meaning we are having a dot at the top and a comma below the dot there. That is how a semicolon looks like. And then a hyphen, like in the word semicolon, you can see it. It's just a short or a brief line like that. And then a colon, now this is a full colon. Now actually from what you can see, this is semi, a dot and a comma below it. A semicolon is just, we have 2 dots there, one down, one below it and the other one at the top. Then we're having an apostrophe. Apostrophe, do not confuse it with a comma. It looks like a comma, yes. But remember, a comma is put below, or rather next to the lower line of your writing. If you're writing of your book, it is put at the lowest point. However, an apostrophe looks more like comma, but it is always at the top of the word where you want to apply it. I'll give you sentences as we deal with different types of punctuation marks, and you will be able to see how it is being used, and you'll understand the difference between apostrophe and the comma. Then we are talking about dash. Dash again is confusing between, it's also confusing between a dash and a hyphen in terms of the way they look like. I said a hyphen is a brief line, a very short one. However, a dash is a bit longer compared to a hyphen. It's a bit longer compared to a hyphen. It is also, you might, moving forward and now analyzing punctuation for effect later in another lesson, you will realize that dash can also be used for parentheses. However, parentheses, we use different special marks. Originally, we have a bracket. I'm going to have double brackets there. The inner one is the bracket, and then we have this one. that looks like that. It's also a bracket, however, it's quite different. Let me just make it clearer for you to understand. So we have that. Then we are going to enclose it as an example. So these are some of the punctuation marks that we use in our sentences from day to day in both our speech and in writing mostly. And it helps us, like we said, it helps create effect, make meaning clear, and also make sentences have some kind of, unique effect in terms of understanding and what the writer is actually trying to say. We can also use punctuation marks to indicate the types of sentences, and you will learn that if you'll be when you'll be learning types of sentences, you'll realize that we have declarative, we have exclamatory, we have interrogatory sentence. We will use different punctuation marks. So today we are going to pick one specific punctuation mark which we're going to look at, and we are dealing with the first one, which is very obvious that we use in day-to-day writing. So we are starting with the full stop or a period. The symbol is written there. So we're going to look at how a full stop is being used and when we use it in a sentence. So we're going to say, as simple as it is even here. I've inserted one because I was writing a sentence, and if you're writing a sentence, to show that it has actually come to an end, you're going to use a period or a full stop. So a full stop is being used to show that a sentence has ended, or what is simply said at the end of a sentence. So I want to give some short sentences here, and I'm going to request we do them or we insert the full stop step by step. We might have 2 sentences, we might have a whole paragraph, so just be keen and you see step by step how a full stop is being used. So the first sentence I'm going to have, which is a short one, today is my birthday. Now, there is something with this sentence, and then I'm going to add another sentence similar to this. We are having 3 sentences. We have the first one, today is my birthday, that is sentence 1. Sentence 1. Sentence 2 is today your birthday. Then sentence 3, it is my birthday. So if you look at these 3 sentences, I know the definition I've given here, some people are wondering at the end of which sentence do we have a full stop. It is very easy. Let's understand this definition with the 3 sentences I've given. Among the 3 sentences, sentence 1, sentence 2, and sentence 3, which one should end with a full stop? So I'll give you a minute to think through, and then we see which one has or should end with a full stop. So you can see the sentences clearly. I believe we are ready. We didn't need a whole minute for that. So we are having sentence 1, today is my birthday. This sounds like a statement. If we say today is my birthday, is today your birthday? This sounds like a question. And if you remember that when I explained the different types of punctuation marks, you clearly understand that we use question marks at the end of sentences that are asking a question. So obviously this one we leave this one out because here we are supposed to have a question mark. It is my birthday. This person is expressing joy and happiness because it's her day, and therefore, like we said, for instances or in sentences where we need to express how we feel, we use exclamation mark. So that leaves us with only one sentence which deserves a full stop at the end. So allow me to wrap the 2 sentences, and we remain with the first one, and I'll explain to you why we have used a full stop instead of any other type of punctuation mark. So today is my birthday is supposed to end with a full stop. Why? Because it is a statement. It is making us, this person is reporting and saying and informing people it is her or his birthday. So we can add and say, for you to better understand, that So we say that full stop is only used, and I'll underline the word only, and then I will underline the word statement. So if it is a statement which we call a declarative sentence. So a sentence that makes a statement, or rather called declarative sentence, is the only sentence that we use a full stop with. So you cannot insert a comma here, you cannot insert a question mark, you cannot insert an exclamation mark. It is a sentence because it makes a what? A statement. Okay, so remember this, and remember the examples we have. So now moving on to the activity, I want to give a whole paragraph that we are going to punctuate step by step using particularly and specifically a full stop. So we have our paragraph here. It's a brief one made up of several sentences, as you can see. Now my question, or rather the most important question is, are you able to identify the sentences that are making up the paragraph? Understanding the sentences that we have, both the type, where they are, where they begin, they start from, where they end at, that is exactly what will tell us where to insert the full stop or a period that we are looking at in our lesson. Remember, all the sentences I have here are statements. They are declarative sentences, and at the end of each sentence, we are meant to insert a comma so that the meaning can stay clear. One thing we said, punctuation marks create effect in sentences or in paragraphs. The effect here, at least as the reader is reading this paragraph, they will be able to get the clear meaning of what we are talking about. If you read this sentence without the full stop, you're not going to get the clear meaning, you're not going to get the clear effects you're supposed to get as the reader. So let's work on it together. So the first part of the paragraph we are going to read, and when there is a place where we're supposed to insert the full stop, you kindly let us know so that we insert it there. So let's do this together. My name is Jackie, I am 20, oh yes, exactly. I've spotted a place where you're supposed to insert a full stop. My name is Jackie. So if you look at this person is introducing herself, and her name is Jackie is enough for a sentence. So we are inserting our full stop there. My name is Jackie, that is statement number one, full stop. I am 20 years old. Sorry, I left that out. I am 20 years old. I've also spotted a statement there that needs a full stop at the end. So we are inserting our full stop there. That is our second statement in this paragraph. I live in Nairobi with my family. There is also a statement here, you can all agree. I live in Nairobi with my family. So at the end of the family, we are going to insert a full stop. My brother is taller than me. Another full stop. Meaning, this is another statement being made by our speaker here, who is Jackie. My brother is taller than me. He takes good care of our other siblings when I am not around. That is another statement being reported by our speaker in the sentence. So you put a full stop there. He takes good care of our other siblings when I am not around. That is another statement. I work with an organization called Hope Foundation. The end of our paragraph. This is very automatic. At the end of every paragraph, as long as you're ending with a statement, a sentence that is making a statement, it is an automatic full stop that will appear at the end of that. So we are having the statements there in our paragraph, and you see at the end of every statement we have made a full stop. You are not seeing a question mark, you're not seeing a comma, you're not seeing an exclamation mark, because we're using statements in our paragraph. So reading, my name is Jackie, I am 20 years old, I live in Nairobi with my family. My brother is taller than me. He takes good care of our family, of our other siblings when I am not around. I work with an organization called Hope Foundation. We have seen and looked at how a full stop is being used, and please try to recall. So we are coming to the end of our lesson, And I just would like for you to remember, next time you remember how to use a full stop before we meet in our next period, I want us to go through every single punctuation mark, and we look at why a full stop will be standing out in terms of the uses. Bear in mind, or have in mind, the previous definition we had for full stop and how we actually use it. We had defined punctuation. We said these are inserting, it's inserting unique marks at the end of sentences or within sentences to create clarity in terms of meaning and in terms of effect. So to punctuate is a simple word that is a verb coming from the noun punctuation. So it's just inserting the marks. So it is the actual to insert marks within sentences, and we have listed quite a number of them. The first one and the most important one that we have looked at today is called a full stop. So allow me, I'll use the symbol so that it's easier for you to remember. So we have a full stop whose symbol looks like that, a tiny dot. And we have said it's used at the end of a sentence that is making a statement, and this type of sentence is called a declarative sentence. And then I mentioned, we are yet to look at it, I mentioned a question mark whose symbol looks like that. And we have said it is being used at the end of a statement, or a sentence that is asking a question. Then we have an exclamation mark used at the end of a sentence that expresses feelings or emotions or a reaction, whichever feeling you have. If you're excited, you're amazed, you're surprised, you use an exclamation mark. And then we have a comma, which is used for a short pause. And then we have a semicolon, which is the symbol used to connect or separate two sentences that are related. And usually we use a semicolon in places where we would not need a comma. Okay? Then we have a colon. Then we have a hyphen. Remember, a hyphen, we said it's a brief dash line, a short one that is used mostly in compound nouns. Then we have a dash, let me put it there. It looks a little bit longer than the hyphen, and it's used for emphasis in sentences. Then we have parentheses. You can either use a bracket or you use the special bracket that we have there. Then we have what we call an apostrophe. Remember, it looks like that. If you want to know the difference between apostrophe and a comma, you join us in our next lesson where I'll be looking at a comma. You'll understand the different uses of a comma and how we actually use an apostrophe. Then we forgot one, which is actually a special one. I'd prefer to look at it some other time. We call them speech marks. This is a special type of punctuation mark that we'll actually need to look at as we progress with our lesson. So among all these, I've only been able, or we have only looked at a special one, that is the full stop. We have looked at full stop, and we have said a full stop is being used at the end of a sentence, and this is not just any other sentence. We use a full stop at the end of a sentence that makes a statement. A sentence that makes a statement, we have said it's called declarative sentence. Declarative sentence. So it makes a statement reporting something. I am teaching, we are learning, I went to school, I go to work. All those sentences I've said end with a full stop. And remember, if you're using a full stop, ensure the effect is clear and the meaning is clear, and you're using it at the end of the right type of sentence which we have here. Don't forget this. You can do some brief research and know what a declarative sentence is and how it's being written, how it's being constructed. It's also always proper to understand the type of sentences you're using. Okay. So, yes. That is it for today. Moving forward, we'll pick at comma and we look at it, and I also think I'll combine it with apostrophe so that you're able to understand the difference in terms of where they're supposed to be within the sentence and how they're supposed to be used. So thank you so much. That is it for today. See you in our next lesson. I've been your teacher, Miss Vivian Elizabeth, and we are working together with Horizon TV to bring smart learning to your doorstep. Thank you so much.
Ooh.